Today in the capital of the Ukraine, the meeting of the heads of state of the CIS took place. The session of the Supreme Soviet of the Tatarstan did not meet today. However, the Presidium was called on the eve of the referendum. The Second Congress of the Germans, of Russia, and other republics of the former USSR opened today in Moscow. The heads of state, the Georgian State Council, approved a resolution for the Ministry of Defense to create the Georgian Army. In Yerevan, the Fourth Congress of the Armenian All-National Movement took place. The first press conference was held by the Executive Committee on Procedural Questions of Meetings of the Russian Citizens of the Federation. The UN Security Council discussed the question of sanctions against Iraq. Israel blockaded the Gaza Strip. Good evening. As you know, that was just a short list of today's news. More details later. Today at the forefront of the media, naturally, was the meeting of the CIS heads of state in Kiev. On the agenda, there were 21 questions proposed. However, by mid-afternoon, this agenda had grown to 25 questions. What was accomplished in this time? Our reporter from Kiev will give the details. This fifth meeting took place in conditions of maximum stress conditions, goes to a battle. The former regional Communist Party committee building was surrounded by militia and military who protected meeting participants, but from whom they couldn't say. The demonstrators actively stated their positions, giving a range of all the world's problems. They did give reason to maintain good security. These strong demands were shown on the demonstrators' placards. Military appointments were made. Now Marshal Shapashnikov has a new head of the General Staff, General Samson. General Maximov will head the Joint Forces. General Simonov will head the General Forces. An agreement on observers and joint forces to maintain peace in the CIS countries, such as those under the blue helmets of the UN, was formed. This is a chance to stop the bloodshed in Nagorno-Karabakh and the Pridnestrovsk region. These military themes seemed easier to reach agreements on than other questions, including the question of jurisdiction of the Black Sea Fleet. The Ukraine Minister of Defense believes that sailors should decide their own citizenship. Those who believe that they're Ukrainians will take on the responsibilities of the fleet under the Ukraine. Economic themes were also very tough to decide. Leaders of the Commonwealth discussed the division of property of the former Soviet Union. The legal basis for succession of the former USSR states is currently missing. Who owns what is currently unknown. However, the question of airspace was resolved. Currently, this will all belong to the CIS countries. However, there will be no former Commonwealth borders guarded by Republican forces. No forces will stand on the borders between the former fraternal republics. The leaders of the independent states of the Commonwealth have already met since December. We'll meet again in December under a new government structure. However, will all the people shown in the tape at the meeting remain in place or attend? The first question. This is a question that journalists raised. The future of the Commonwealth depends to a great degree on the leaders of the Ukraine and Russia. The heads of the two largest republics attempted to come to some meeting. Agreement before the meeting. Accordingly, Ukrainian Premier Forkin called for economic relations to be laid out in the CIS and for sanctions if these are not kept. Boris Yeltsin, according to the Reuters agency, proposed that Ukrainian observers oversee the destruction of nuclear weapons, which would be transferred from Ukrainian territory to Russian territory. Therefore, there have been concessions before the meeting. Currently, there's a press conference of the CIS. You'll see this report later. As we've heard from Kiev, the question of the creation of an international broadcasting company and a Eurasian broadcasting company was considered at the meeting. According to unconfirmed reports, the heads of the delegations approved the document and instructed the heads of state to oversee its implementation. On the eve of the referendum, the Russian Supreme Soviet adopted a resolution against the Tatarstan referendum. The parliament has practically forced the president to take measures implementing the resolutions of the Constitutional Court. This morning, before his flight, Yeltsin discussed this with our correspondent. I won't allow Tatarstan to secede from Russia. This morning, the president of Tatarstan, Shamiev, spoke on Republican radio with an appeal to the people regarding the referendum. Shamiev stressed that the referendum will determine who and how uses the material and national resources of Tatarstan, the center as beforehand, or the republic. He said, we can't answer no at the referendum. Therefore, the Russian territorial integrity is seriously threatened now. The session of the Supreme Soviet Tatarstan outlined its positions at the Presidium. Today in Kazan, there was an extraordinary session of the People's Deputies in Tatarstan. Tatarstan should take a decision. Should have taken the decision to cancel the referendum is formulated, but there were no specific decisions taken. At this session, the two largest parliamentary groups split, and there was only about a minute and a half spent on Yeltsin's appeal. Why was so little time spent on this question? Well, on the whole, we have spent very little time on this because I believe that this should be discussed at the Supreme Soviet. And I took this task upon myself to convene the Presidium of the Supreme Soviet to discuss the proposals by Boris Yeltsin. All the People's Deputies now have these proposals in hand, and they have requested to take them to inform their districts and continue the discussions. And will they? I'm sure they're focused on tomorrow's referendum. Well, I believe that the problem is that this appeal was given to us less than one day, and if we had heard one day before the referendum, if it had before, we'd probably discuss it better. Given the president won't allow this referendum, I believe that the People's Deputies will consider this. They'll clarify the question. Tomorrow at 6 o'clock, the polls open for voting. You'll probably notice that at Kiev, in the meetings of the CI's heads, President of Azerbaijan, Mamyedov, was missing. According to his press agency, in connection with the severe situation in the country, President Mamyedov has decided not to leave the country. The current situation in Agdam is calm due to this. However, the ceasefire has been broken by Armenian militants. Today, UN Special Envoy Cyrus Vance arrived in the area. They showed him the city and its destruction and noted the shelling that had taken place last night and said the shelling usually takes place during the night or the dawn hours, not just with rockets, but with also heavy artillery that's prohibited under international conventions. Soon it'll be 1 year since the tragedy in Khojaly. But the local units of the Azerbaijan Popular Front continue to fill the mosques with the dead from the city. An American diplomat was told that over 600 Khojaly residents have been buried, and the fate of more than 1,000 is still unknown. And they directed his attention to the fact that Armenian units are using weapons against a peaceful population and using barbaric methods. As told to Ostankino, Special Envoy Cyrus Vance said that I was the person who's seen a lot, but the situation I saw today shocked me. Tomorrow in Azerbaijan is a national holiday, the day of spring. We wish them peace and happiness and prosperity. I hope these words come true. Let's hope so. Today, the Armenian Ministry of Foreign Affairs published a communique in connection with the massive blockade of Armenia. The Azerbaijanis are violating international law, which pulls Armenia into the conflict. As a result of the blockade, the Republic will be forced to call a state of emergency due to the fact that 110,000 tons of fuel still remains on Azerbaijan territory and is not delivered to Yerevan. There is news giving us hope. There is no reports on military action in Karabakh due to the accord reached on the ceasefire in Tehran, which took force today at 12 o'clock noon. The Ministry of Defense of Azerbaijan has announced that if this peace is maintained for 5 days or more, it will signify the beginning of a peaceful resolution of the Karabakh crisis. And more good news. It's a rare day when you have more than one example. Currently, the correspondent from Itatas has told us that headquarters of the Joint Command of CIS forces, after 2 days